Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This is one of the dumbest things you're going to hear all week. And, you know, we don't get to enjoy these ravings like we used to because Joy Reid lost her little show on MSNBC.
I know. What do you do with all your free time?
Well, I miss her terribly because, you know, she would be spinning tales like the one you're about to hear to a larger audience so that many more people can be woefully misinformed about American history and virtually every other topic. Now it's just her and Don Lemon. They just don't have the juice they used to. When Don was living it up at CNN and Joy Reid was the cock of the walk over at MSNBC.
The cock of the walk.
Sad. But I'm glad they're still together producing content that I can use on this program.
Okay.
And we can enjoy together.
Yeah, I used to work with Don, so he did tear my C-section stitch. Remember that? Well, after I gave birth to Eli, I was at Ty's.
Was he in the delivery room?
No, I was at Ty's till 4, and it was Stephanie Streff's 30th birthday party, or maybe 40th. No, 30th. Ooh, I don't remember. Uh-huh. And he was so excited to see me. He came up behind me because I lived across the street. I was still on maternity leave. Came up behind me and was so happy to see me and lifted me up and pop, bam. Ugh. Oh, it was so painful. I'm like, ow, what did you do? So, yeah, that's my scar on my belly from Don Lemon.
Note to self, never mention Don Lemon on this show again so we don't have to hear that story.
Well, how often do you pop a C-section stitch? Never. I mean, my goodness.
I thought the most painful thing I was going to hear all week was Joy Reid's take on the War of 1812, but I stand corrected. All right, here they are.
Grampy Trump, let's talk. First of all, you can't make Canada the 51st state without going to war with them. And let me explain how that happened, how that worked out the last time we tried to go to war with Canada. They burned the White House to the ground in 1814 and won the war. Canada beat us in the War of 1812. They probably liked their chances against us. We're not going to beat them in a war because we have never been able to do that. You'd have to occupy a country that is equivalent of the size of the United States, in which the top 2/3 of it is uninhabited, frozen forest land that touches the Arctic. You know how that worked out when the Nazis tried that with Russia, which is the equivalent of Canada on that part of the world? We gonna lose. We don't have enough troops to occupy. They are a country of 39 million people who have about as many guns per capita as we do.
Well, yeah. I mean, just a point of order. I guess, I don't know, some people will probably believe these two knuckleheads. I mean, the War of 1812 was declared by the United States against Great Britain.
Right. I thought I was losing my mind there. I learned something different in history class.
It was Major General Robert Ross who sacked the Capitol and British troops that burned the White House. It was British troops that repelled incursions into our neighbor to the north in the War of 1812 as well, you know, before ultimately the Treaty of Ghent was signed, ending that conflict. But, I mean, so that's just a history lesson. I mean, I didn't go to Harvard like Joy, but that's just the actual history. Number one. Number two, I don't think Canada believes what Joy Reid is saying in 2025, in the 2025 universe. And, of course, number three, to preface all of this is no one is talking about, no one is thinking about invading Canada, including the President of the United States. But these are the fever dreams you get from the left. Right. And you know what? Honestly, the other reason I miss them is because Joy Reid is one of the reasons for the state of the new Marxist Party, as we talked about a bit earlier in the program, where 40% of self-identified Democrats have an unfavorable view of congressional Democrats. 40%. Only 49. Actually, 40% have an unfavorable view. 49% favorable view. And that is, almost a 180 from just last year, because so much of the caucus that gets the most attention, the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett's, are just as daffy as Joy Reid, and responsible people, productive people, even those that are confused about how a free society should be organized and find themselves on the left, they still don't want to hold intellectual company with Jasmine and Joy and AOC and Pocahontas and the rest of these loons. So that's another reason to miss Joy. But I thought that would be entertaining. On an actual news front with respect to our military, this announcement was made by Trump on Friday with SecDef Hexeth beside him. We want to get our next guest reaction to the import of this.
At my direction, the United States Air Force is moving forward with the world's first sixth-generation fighter jet. Number sixth generation. Nothing in the world comes even close to it. And it'll be known as the F-47. The generals picked a title. And it's a beautiful number, F-47. It's something the likes of which nobody has seen before in terms of all of the attributes of a fighter jet. There's never been anything even close to it, from speed to maneuverability to what it can have to payload. And this has been in the works for a long period of time. After a rigorous and thorough competition between some of America's top aerospace companies, the Air Force is going to be awarding the contract for the next generation air dominance platform to Boeing.
For more on this, Stephen Bucci joined us. He served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's always my pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me back.
Anything you would like to add to the official record of the War of 1812 before we move on to current matters?
Well, I didn't know you were going this soft on me, Dan. But
yeah.
I mean, come on. If you're going to speak publicly about historical subjects, at least, Google it. Get the Wikipedia entry, something. But no, you're right.
And am I right on that? Just to confirm, we probably have a few listeners left of center. Just to confirm, is my intuition right that the Joint Chiefs of Staff are not drawing up plans to invade Canada at present?
No, they are not, and nor will they. We can have differences with Canada. We can poke them about being the 51st state. But look, they're our ally. They've been our ally for a long time since they became a country, which, as you pointed out, they weren't when, during the War of 1812, they were just still a colony of Great Britain. It's just loony stuff. And by the way, having long stretches of totally uninhabitable tundra doesn't make you more defensible, by the way. It makes it a little harder for you to defend.
Right. Yes. And more territory is harder to defend than less territory sometimes.
And having more guns per capita doesn't mean anything when one side has a lot more guns and a lot more people than you. But all that aside, no, she's nuts. I can't believe they still give her a platform, and Lemon as well. They get off on these rants that are just totally detached from reality. But then on the other hand, we have President Trump introducing an aircraft that, heck, most people didn't even know we were developing, and here it is unveiled and pretty slick, going into that next generation. Again, beginning the process, not finishing it, but beginning the process of maintaining a dominance position in war fighting.
Well, this F-40, sorry to interrupt, but this F-47, I mean, is this a response to, and I don't know if this is true, but there have been apparent experts talking about the arms race with respect to us and China, and that China has supersonic aircraft that we don't have, and there's a gap that needs to be traversed. I mean, is that part of this? Is what I said accurate? What's your reaction?
What you said originally was 100% accurate. This is the next generation fighter. Nobody else has a really effective operational 6th-gen fighter yet. The Chinese are trying to get it. Remember, you can't always believe all of the press releases of China and Russia.
Right.
So this will keep us in a position of dominance as we go forward. But we got to fund it. We got to, build them, all that kind of stuff. So this is a challenge, but we've laid down a marker now that we are still in this game, and that people need to not mess around with us, which is what we want. We don't want to go fight anybody. We would rather everybody play nice with one another. And
now,
this will give us the ability to make that argument too.
I mean, I know there was a bidding process, but your confidence in Boeing, it doesn't exactly have the great branding of late, too, including with the stranded astronauts that recently returned. I mean, are there newer defense contractors, I don't know, the Palantirs of the world, that should be partnering or double-checking the work of Boeing these days? I mean, what's your confidence level?
Boeing can handle this. Boeing knows what they're doing. They are still a top-notch company, and with the competition process, this is not going to be something we need to worry about. Boeing will be able to handle it. The Air Force is going to be right there with them the whole time, and we'll get the product that we need and that the American people deserve.
Moving to Eastern Europe and that effort at peace there. Boy, I'm sort of tiring of headlines like this because I think they're inaccurate, but correct me if you think I'm wrong. A Wall Street Journal over the weekend, Trump Russia envoy echoes Kremlin's views on Ukraine ahead of peace talks. I mean, everything from the D.C. press corps, even the Wall Street Journal on the news side, is presenting Trump as doing the bidding of Putin here with this peace process, if you will. Do you think that's unfair?
Yes, it is unfair. They are, the Trump people are trying to get peace. They're doing that by negotiating with both partners or both participants in this war. And if they can do it, we can stop people slaughtering each other, which I hope everybody would agree is a good thing. They're not telling us everything they're saying. They're not telling us everything they're doing, nor should they. And look, they've had a couple of really big successes around the world. Let's give them the time to see where this goes.
The Iranians, just to get another front in here, Elliot Kaufman, on the Wall Street Journal's editorial board, writing about Trump being potentially on the precipice of overturning Obama's quote-unquote law, which is Iran may attack all, but none may attack Iran. And Trump posting on Truth Social, the hundreds of attacks being made by Houthi, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Right, we know the links between Iran and Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah and Iran and the Houthis. So what about Iran? Why continue to go after the puppets and not the puppet master?
I'm with you in this. I think we need to make Iran pay the price for what those proxies are doing. Even if the Houthis are doing this on their own, everything they're shooting at anybody comes from Iran. So Iran needs to pay a price for that. It doesn't mean we need to, level a whole country or invade the whole country, but we need to put more pressure on them. And some of that pressure, I think, should be military. We'll see where it goes. And I don't believe they're going to get away with this forever. But I'm ready to turn the screws up on the Iranian government right now. I think that's the right thing to do.
I mean, just a little bit more color on that. When you turn the screws up on the mullahs, what do you think is or should be on the table?
We should be taking down their targets on their territory and making them bleed, because they're the ones causing these problems in the region and around the world.
All right. Wait, let's go talk about Israel and Hamas. They killed a key leader yesterday, and this after Hamas failed to return hostages. So what's the latest there?
That is still inching along. It's turning into a propaganda battle now, as well as a physical one. I've been contacted by some of my colleagues who live in the Middle East, talking about all the horrible things Israel was doing, not just the attacks against Hamas, but on their prisoners and all this. And I'm like, look, Israel is getting savaged by lots of Western sources for what they're doing in the physical attacks. This idea that they're abusing the prisoners and doing that stuff is just completely trying to get people's eyes off of what the Hamas has done and is doing to the hostages they still have. So, look, Israel needs to just go for it and finish these folks off, or as many of them as they can. They're doing it still with a scalpel, and I admire them for that, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to stay nice anymore. They're going to have to just go in there again and just take the wood to these people.
Trump has been pretty strategically shrewd here, it seems to me, in the Middle East, with the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, going over, and the team, including Rubio and Walz, of course, and creating a space for Bibi to do what is necessary to come as close to finishing off Hamas as is humanly possible by starting this process with the envoy, by the ceasefire, and because of all the pressure that was on Bibi and the U.S. too, to get hostages returned, to give Hamas yet another opportunity to act in something approximating good faith, as good a faith as they can ever operate in. And knowing that, at some point, of course, they would renege. And now there is no, there may be a moral claim in the eyes of some students on an Ivy League campus, but there is no real claim anymore that has any currency among sort of commonsensical people that just want hostages returned and want peace. That you understand completely what Hamas is. Everybody who's paying any attention should get it if they didn't before. And now I think there's much less pushback on Bibi to, as I said, finish that job as close as is humanly possible. So I just think how Trump approached this provided a lot of space for what Bibi is in the process of doing, while also saving some lives, getting some hostages returned.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, Netanyahu needs to do this for his domestic constituency as well. There are large numbers of people in Israel who want to focus solely on getting the prisoners back, right, and are willing to give anything. Bibi's got to square that circle. He's got to keep the pressure on Hamas, but also not completely alienate that large portion of his own population. So the whole peace deal that's been going on, it was a little more tepid than I would have preferred, but I'm not the head of the nation of Israel, and I don't have to deal with the whole peace movement that he has there. So I think Trump has given him the space at both ends of the spectrum, and that was the right thing to do.
One other matter, another U.S. District Court judge named Anna Reyes ordered the Pentagon to allow trans troops, calling the ban unabashedly demeaning, quote unquote. to which Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded, since Judge, in quotation marks, Reyes is now a top military planner, they can report to Fort Benning at 0600 to instruct our Army Rangers on how to execute high-value target raids. After that, Commander Reyes can dispatch to Fort Bragg to train our Green Berets on counterinsurgency warfare. I'm sensing some sarcasm from Hegseth. That judicial decision and your view on how strident the Trump administration should be on this topic.
Well, the judicial decision is wrong. It makes a difference. People who are in the process of transitioning in the whole trans cycle between the pharmaceutical part and the surgical part, as well as the psychological counseling part, are all non-deployable when they are in that status. So that means for 3 years, you have soldiers on your books in your unit that cannot go anywhere or do their job. That's not right. If those people want to transition before they come in the military and come in as their new whatever, that's their business. They can try and do that. But coming in the military and then expecting the military to carry them, and it's not just the pay, it's the fact that that unit loses that slot. That person can't help. So the ruling is crazy. The Trump administration, they really should watch the sarcasm. That doesn't always, we enjoy it, but doesn't always help in legal matters.
Mm-hmm.
So, just be wise, Secretary of Defense. Play it through the courts, win the cases, and then move forward.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Take care.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Your business is under attack 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a fact. Small businesses are the low-hanging fruit. You may think you're protected, but you're vulnerable in many ways, and cyber attacks